right, everyone, back again, talking more about websites with RedTree Team. Super excited because this is the first time Frank is in the hot seat. So, Frank, why don't you take like 2 seconds and just do a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name is Frank Collins and the web developer for RedTree. I am based in Philadelphia, PA. I've been doing this about 7, 8 years now.
You've been with RedTree a little bit over a year now, and we're very grateful. Frank brings a lot of really great ideas. He just did a beautiful education on website accessibility, which I was not up to standards on. So very excited to have Frank here. And I'm not much of a sports person, but apparently Frank's an Eagles fan, and we don't hold that against him.
That's
So
that's
for
right. That's right.
yeah,
We do our thing, and y'all do what y'all can about it.
you
I,
mean the Eagles win and the Steelers
yes,
don't? Did
exactly.
I say that? I said that.
Yes, 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 yes. But I also fair weather all the other Philadelphia sports teams. So I was a baseball fan for a brief second until we got knocked out the playoffs.
We should have a sidebar conversation about Savannah Bananas. Like, I'm not a big baseball fan, but apparently, like, I love the Savannah
Yeah,
Bananas.
I was watching a game, and that was the first time I ever.
Anyways, we're not here to necessarily talk about baseball, though we probably could. Although I tried doing baseball sports analogies and it fails really fast. So, like, I would be out of the conversation in 2 seconds. But what I can talk a lot about, and what we can all talk a lot about, is websites. And more specifically, we're looking at SEO today. We're talking to Davina because this is Davina's specialty, and then Frank talking a little bit about the technical SEO. Some of this we're going to kind of cross over into SEO, GEO, AIEO, whatever it is that we're calling it. Someone needs to just like make a decision on that one and like drive forward. But GEO is those generative engine optimization. Some people are also calling it AEO, which is AI engine optimization, just basically the channel that's coming from AI via the large language model. So we're going to touch on a lot of those. But Davina, I would love for you to sort of kick us off. What's the biggest misconception the clients have about SEO?
I'm actually going to bring it immediately back to AI because I think that's the biggest misconception right now. I think clients are very eager to kind of position themselves well and, take advantage of this next big thing, but it's super, super early in the AI boom. Traditional SEO works from a framework that has been, published and, consistently iterated upon by Google. And there are tons of tools to support that and collect data based on that framework. AI, not anywhere similar. The biggest similarity is that it is crawling your website in the same way that any traditional search engine would. So foundationally, good SEO is good AI engine optimization. That is the biggest misconception now. So consider yourself unmisconcepted.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I remember I'm somewhat removed a lot from SEO since you come on because you're 10 times better than I ever was. And you've been sort of telling me, hey, listen, this is the stuff we've been telling people to do from a best practice of SEO, content structure, thought leadership, like consistency. And AI is picking that same stuff up. And it's just the new shiny. So I love the fact that you're bringing that down to sort of that tangible, like it's the same thing we've been talking about for a while now. Frank, what about on your side? So what's the technical details that a lot of clients would look over from an SEO performance standpoint?
I think the the biggest thing that clients look over is that your markup matters to how whether it's AI or what the generative AI models, the LLMs are reading your sites, or just the general AI from Google. Your markup matters to how your results are read and displayed. So I usually urge clients, if they're taking care of their own content, to make sure that their images have alt tags. The Google Google search engine reads those alt tags and uses those to generate recommendations. What you're using your headers in the right space, because like Google and a lot of other search engines use headers to generate relations between content. And also, if you want to take advantage of like the fancier aspects of the search engine's result page, then I would say your schema markup. So actually using schemas for appropriate pages. So things like video pages and things like that. If you do have that, you get higher results, and your results come back a lot more readable. So if there's a video you want to draw attention to, instead of having the search engine guess that this video is important, you put that in schema and declare that this video or this content is important, and I would like it to show up in the search results page.
Yeah, I mean, schema, we're going to come up to the markup, but schema is one of those things I tell a lot of people that they just don't take advantage of enough. And it essentially is, you gave a kind of an example of video, but I always like to correlate events. So how are you going to tell the robots that this is the location, this is the time, this is the date, and there's schema markup that you can wrap around a lot of those things. But that's a super technical term, and that's just that allows us to communicate. But when you say markup, and you gave a couple of examples, Frank, but I think it's worth drilling down a little bit more. Like, what does a markup mean if you're not in dev world?
Okay, so markup is just how it's the language that we use to like write these web pages. In web world, that's HTML, hypertext markup language, or XML. And it robots find it a lot easier than we did. And it's a lot easier to group data together. But from like a client or content perspective, basically, use your headers in the right place. Use list for list data. A lot of times, like if you're not like being hyper vigilant, you'll have like a bunch of what should be a list kind of marked up or just written as like loose data. And sometimes it's hard for the search engine to tell that this is everything's related. So but put your put your lists in lists, put your headers in headers, quotes. There's like you can explicitly declare that these things are quotes, things like that. So
That's awesome. And so Frank gave a couple of really great examples there, Davina, but is there anything that you would suggest that a business could do today to help with their SEO strategy?
Yes. Number one, I would say if your SEO strategy isn't supported by data, then you need to kind of get that fixed. Fortunately, Google Search Console is free. Google Analytics is also free. I would recommend you work with somebody to get that implemented, but if you're doing things yourself and wearing multiple hats, it's definitely something that's easy, not easy, but doable for you. I would say that's probably the number one thing. Data is going to help you define your success, and it's also going to help you define your failure. And, having those things visible and clear is going to help you make steps or make moves to grow.
It's interesting that you bring up data. I was also wondering a little bit about consistency, I guess you can say. So, a common question that I get asked a lot is I really want to focus on SEO, but I can't post a blog post every single day. Right? And I would love to know, as we're thinking about SEO, which is a larger strategy, right? But I know a lot of people sort of focus in on that individual blog post or the thought leadership that they might be creating. What you would tell someone whenever they're thinking about content creation and kind of giving a couple of suggestions there about what to focus on specifically.
Number one is definitely going to be the reader, providing them with information. At the end of the day, they came to your site, they had a question, they have a need that needs to be fulfilled, and your job is to fulfill that need by providing that information clearly, legibly, and not only for the reader, but obviously for the search engine. And that's, kind of the beautiful marriage between SEO and brand strategy, where you really need to make sure you're always aligned with who you're talking to and what you're saying about your product or service.
And that goes back to also thinking about your human, as Frank had mentioned, there's a human reads things better also if they're in list structures and header structures. And like, I love the fact that you've sort of started with that human, and then all of these best practices that AI wants us to do, that Google wants us to do, is all boiled down to really focusing on that human, and what it is that they would need to understand. So I will ask both of you. I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'll ask both of you, and whoever wants to jump in first can jump in first. But how do you approach structured content that supports both a user as well as SEO?
I'm gonna go first just because I was just doing this. To be honest with you, I always start with the user. I think there's kind of this misconception that SEO really requires you to, write for a search engine or, structure things for a search engine. But really, that's a supporting structure. What you're really doing is kind of the principle of EEAT, which is expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. And that's the your money, your life, YMYL, that whole industry. If you're trying to have somebody spend their money, you need to know what that is. And the foundation of that is just proving that you know what you're talking about, that you are a valuable resource, and that the information that you're conveying is accurate, and hopefully aligning that with some strategy to get someone to buy your stuff.
Frank?
Using the correct elements when you're to convey information is important. I would say that from a technical perspective, make sure that the search engine has what it needs to read, whether that be the schema markup. But ultimately, you are writing content for a human. So, and Google and AI is all black boxes. Like uh, in the end, none of us really know what's going on after we throw our content in. So really, it is more important to write for the user. So just the writing good content always holds water, things that people want to read, because ultimately, if people are reading your stuff or find that your leadership interesting, then the search engine, no matter what's in that black box that we can't see, will acknowledge your content. But it's also just important from a technical perspective, just to have something that's well coded. But if it's well coded and you have good content, then you'll be in a much better position for your search engines to acknowledge what you're writing.
I know something else that we've focused on a lot recently is also page speed, like how quick a site loads.
Right.
And thinking again, right? So we're all boiling this down to humans, right? So there's a ton of reports that you can get, but I know I have the attention span of a gnat I think I have a fourth of attention span of a gnat when it comes to websites. So if it's going to take more than, I think there's a study actually out that says if it takes more than 3 seconds to load a page,
Mhm.
someone will leave. And I'm curious, I know that like there's like lazy loads and things like that that allow for the complexity of graphics and things like that to come later. And it's a difference from a user experience. But what are you, I mean, is that actually important from an SEO standpoint?
It's extremely important from an SEO standpoint. From a user perspective, really talk with your web developer, or theme developer, or something like that. But that's going to be more so on who's coding your stuff, and make sure your code is optimized. Page speed is extremely important. So yes, you do want to have like certain optimizations in place. Content perspective, check your image sizes. That's something that users can do when they're like writing blog posts. Like make sure that you're not uploading to something that's a megabyte of image to your site. If you want your page load fast, make sure that videos are also optimized for your web page. So a good strategy is hosting your videos on Vimeo or YouTube or something, so that you're not directly embedding like large video files on your site. That'll help. Um, so I think videos and images are the things that end users can focus on. Otherwise, like if your page is loading slow, that's a conversation to have with your web developer.
And we personally know a really good web developer that if anyone would
Really?
like to reach out to
Yeah.
RedTree, you get one of the best developers that I've ever had to work with. A little bit biased over here at RedTree, but
No, no. This is data driven. But yeah, yes. We also can help with page speed and analyzing what's wrong with your page and your site in general, and pointing out ways we can improve that aspect of your SEO strategy.
very cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and say if there's nothing else, do you guys have anything else that you want to add about SEO that people can corner? We could talk about this for kingdom come time. But is there anything else that you would want to add before we officially jump off?
There are free tools to check your technical SEO, literally PageSpeed Insights that will you can just run your site through the search bar and it'll give you really detailed information and excuse me, recommendations about, what you can fix. That's a great tool. That's the only one I'm gonna recommend. Start there. That's a great starting point.
There are a lot of tools, and we didn't even touch on the fact that accessibility of your site also helps SEO. Ooh, there, yeah. So there are accessibility tools that can help. WebAIM puts out a lot of free accessibility tools that can help you with things like checking your headers or checking that links have words or things.
That's true.
Yeah, things that
Yeah.
or that your page is readable by screen readers. Things that Google likes.
Well, I will have to say, Frank, I think the Red Tree team has been enjoying these weekly chats so much that we might just have to add on accessibility as a sort of another conversation because there was a lot of things that you even just recently taught me that, I'd want to share with people and that they're taking into account. But for now, we'll say to anyone who's watching, please come back next week. We're going to be talking to Frank again and our designer, Kate, about call to actions, which is super exciting. So thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.